latest opinion polls say that under Conservative leader Andrew Scheer, the party has the support of some 45% of Canadian voters. And in terms of election cash, the party has leapfrogged over the others to break fundraising records, getting over $8 million in the first quarter. This means that in all likelihood, Andrew Scheer is on his way to become the next Prime Minister of Canada. We have in our studios Mr. Andrew Scheer to share his thoughts on some crucial issues. Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much for having me on the show.
The question is, what is the first thing you will do after you win the election this fall?
The first thing a Conservative government will do under my leadership will be to cancel the job-killing carbon tax. We know that the Liberals have imposed this tax on several provinces, and immediately we saw the price of gasoline jump up. We're seeing groceries getting more expensive, and people know that they're going to be out of pocket a great deal. So we've made the commitment that in order to help make life more affordable, we're going to cancel the carbon tax.
How many provinces are on board with the Prime Minister on this?
Well, right now there are 5 provinces that are fighting against the carbon tax, and they're doing this for a variety of reasons. Many of those provinces have had an alternative environmental plan to help tackle CO2 reductions, but doing so in a way that doesn't increase costs for Canadians. And that's the key difference. The Liberal plan, we know, is not an environmental plan.
No.
It's a tax plan, and they're hoping that they can fool Canadians into thinking that they're going to somehow get ahead at the end of the day after paying this higher tax. But we know that won't happen. That's why we're going to cancel it.
Although I think the Superior Court judge ruled it as constitutional, that the Prime Minister can impose this tax on the provinces?
Well, you are right. There was a court ruling that at the initial stages found in favor of the federal government, but we expect that decision will be appealed to a higher level.
Right.
And there were many things that the dissenting judges pointed out that reinforce the case of the provinces that are fighting the court. One thing is clear. We're seeing unprecedented fighting between the federal government and provincial governments.
It's never happened before.
It never happened before. Justin Trudeau promised to come along and do things differently, to work with premiers, to find common ground for these types of solutions. Instead, he fights with them and ultimately has to fight them in court.
What about the Trans Mountain Pipeline? What's your stand on that? Will you go ahead with the project?
Well, we'll certainly do everything we can to make sure that the project gets built. In previous years, the government didn't have to buy a pipeline to get it built.
Yeah, this is billions, in the 3.5 billion or something.
Exactly. Justin Trudeau took $4.5 billion of taxpayers' money, gave it to an American business for them to leave Canada and build pipelines in other countries. That's not including the cost for the expansion. So what we're saying is that we will create the climate for the private sector to build pipelines, restore that confidence.
And refineries, because there's nothing here.
There's no, exactly, and the refining question is starting to gain a lot of prominence because we do hope that we can find ways of getting value added for our products. One thing that's clear is that under the current Liberal regulations, there won't be new capacity for that. So what we're saying is that we're going to restore investor confidence, make Canada the type of place where we can get big projects built again. And in addition to Trans Mountain, we want to get a west to east pipeline. So much of the energy that we use in Ontario, Quebec, and Atlantic Canada comes from other countries. That doesn't make any sense. We have people out of work in Alberta and Saskatchewan. We're taking a huge loss by having to sell our oil to the United States. Let's get off of foreign oil. Let's make Canada self-sufficient. I led a trade mission to India just last year, and we could, if we got more access to Pacific ports, we could sell India our energy. They want to buy it from us. They'd rather have access to a clean and stable partner. So I've already started the process to open up those new markets. We just need to get rid of this Liberal government who keeps blocking these projects.
Coming to that, do you think that IndoCanadian ties need a complete reset?
Well, yes, certainly, absolutely. I mean, after Justin Trudeau's now infamous trip to India, I mean, it was by all accounts a disaster. It set our relationship back. And the way that there were this, I don't think he took this trip seriously. You know, I think he thought it was
mainly a holiday. I think.
It was an image. It was an image design. It was not something that I believe he took seriously, and as a result, our relationship has suffered. We have tremendous potential with India. We have a common parliamentary system. We have the basic commitments to democratic values. Justin Trudeau says that he admires the basic dictatorship of China. Well, I'd rather work closer with countries that share our democratic values, our commitment to freedom and human rights, and that's why my focus would be on India.
So what do you think would be the first steps to improve that situation?
Well, I think it has to start with a different leader of Canada. I don't think Justin Trudeau can do it after his trip, after the way that our relationship, was set back so much because of that. So improving the person-to-person ties, the fact that as leader of a new government, I can have an opportunity to reset that with Prime Minister Modi is something that I'm certainly looking forward to. And finding that common ground, looking to resolve some of the issues that still remain when it comes to trade. We want to do that. Promoting Canada within India. When I was in India, everybody loves Canada. Everyone has good feelings about Canada. Our brand image is very strong in India. Many people have family members that live in Canada now. But unfortunately, the message back was, we're not fighting in India to get the market access, to get investment, to develop those ties. So let's take advantage of the good feelings that we have in India. Let's take advantage of our solid brand, our brand of Canada in India, by putting some work behind it to make sure that develops into economic growth.
Yeah, another statement that you made that has created a lot of interest on foreign policy, that we should get more closer to United States and resist any pressures from China. Well, you made a statement a couple of days ago.
Well, what I said was we need to have a stronger relationship with our allies who share our common values. So the world, as you know, is going through a very tremendous change, and there are countries that we share common values with: freedom, democracy, equality, democratic institutions. And there are countries that we don't share that with. China has shown in the last few months that it does not have the same respect for very assertive moves against Canada. There are 2 Canadians being held illegally in China.
Death row.
And one now on, exactly. So what has our government done in response? What has Justin Trudeau done? Literally nothing. So given the fact that so quickly China has shown that it will mistreat Canadians, it will violate principles of justice, we need to be very cautious with that. And so let's work closer with countries like India, Japan, reinvigorate our ties with the United States, be better security partners, so that we can show the world that we're willing to carry our share of the weight.
What about the Indo-Pacific region? Now, I think this week, Japan, United States, India and Philippines, their navies are conducting exercises in the South China Sea. So why is Canada not participating in these activities?
Well, I don't believe that this government has a very serious foreign policy. I don't believe that Justin Trudeau takes foreign policy very seriously. And I think for many years it was, Canada was fortunate enough to have natural ties with the United States and the United Kingdom and our NATO partners. But what we're seeing now is we have to constantly reinvest in that. A great example when it comes to the Indo-Pacific region is we don't agree with Justin Trudeau's decision to put $256 million in the Asian Infrastructure Bank.
Yeah, that's Chinese led, isn't it?
Exactly. China runs it. They have a veto over it. They control the decisions. Why would we assist with Canadian tax dollars the expansion of the government of China's foreign policy? It doesn't make any sense to me. I'd rather work with partners in India, in Japan, who have democratic institutions, who want the same thing we all want, which is peace and stability and prosperity.
What about Canada? Important thing. What about Canada's stand on the Arctic Passage?
Well, we need to.
What would be your stand here?
Well, the Northwest Passage is Canadian. That is a fundamental principle. We have to be able to back that up. So we have to be able to have the type of presence there. That means
militarily, isn't it?
It means supporting the military institutions that are there. It also means expanding our capability when it comes to icebreakers and submarines. If we aren't able to patrol it, if we aren't able to assert our sovereignty over it, it'll erode very quickly. We know that China is looking at using its fleet. The United States recently has made some troubling statements. So again, we can't count on the world just doing things out of the goodness of their heart. We have to show the world and our partners that we're serious about standing up for ourselves.
So as a Prime Minister, I think your major focus will be on foreign policy.
Well, it's just part of the vision. I'm conducting a series of speeches where I'll be outlining some general principles. about what direction I'll take the country in. We started with foreign affairs because I do believe that the situation with China is very important. It's very critical, and if something isn't done now, it could escalate very quickly. I'll be giving some speeches on the economy, on how our country should work better between provincial, federal governments, the environment, of course, and immigration and multiculturalism. So we'll really be focusing on the whole sphere of policies here in Canada.
And of course, this immigration policy and those irregular border crossers, they say all they are illegal asylum seekers.
Well,
something has to be done about that.
Well,
too.
yes, and I'll be speaking to that. The most important principle is that we have to make sure that Canada continues to be the type of place that people want to come to. What unites us all as Canadians? It's our dedication to tolerance, equality, freedom. That's why people come from all over the world. So that's first and foremost. Secondly, we have to treat people fairly when it comes to immigration. There are people that waited 5, 6, 7 years to come to Canada, and now they have to wait longer because someone decides to just jump the line and skip the queue. That's not fair. I've spoken to many people who are recent immigrants to Canada, and they're trying to bring over a loved one, and they say, why is my mom or why is my brother waiting when someone can just show up and walk through? So we need a system that is open, but is based on fairness, that is orderly, and that ultimately is compassionate. People who are coming in from the United States, they're not fleeing the types of persecution that we see in refugee camps in Africa or in Asia, Middle East. I mean, there are places in the world where people would be killed if they left the refugee camp. They now have to wait longer because some people want to jump the queue. That's the crux of our argument against what's happening at the border and why we're so frustrated that Trudeau just continues to allow it to happen.
Have you started traveling across Canada for elections?
Yes, yes. We haven't really stopped, to tell you the truth. When I was elected as leader in May of 2017, we hit the ground running right away, and I'm constantly on the road getting out to different communities. As we get closer to the summer, it'll be more like a campaign where we have a bit of a faster pace with some policy announcements. But
Alberta will be with you anyway. What about the Maritimes?
Well, Alberta, we never take any support for granted.
That's true.
And there's a lot of challenges in Alberta that we're going to be speaking to. There are some seats that we would like to win back. Same is true in Saskatchewan. Atlantic Canada was a challenge for us in the last election. We lost every seat, but that's not because we didn't have good members of parliament or good policies. And so part of my goal is to reconnect with those areas. We're very optimistic about the tide shifting, New Brunswick, Nova Scotia. I hear from people all the time in Atlantic Canada that they all voted Liberal, but then the Liberals kind of took their support for granted. So a great example, the west to east pipeline is very popular in New Brunswick. They want it. They have the refining capacity. They want those jobs. Liberals voted against it. So we have a great message to reach out to people in Atlantic Canada. I'm very optimistic.
What about Quebec?
Quebec is looking very promising. We are the only party that truly respects provincial levels of jurisdiction. And that's what Quebec wants. Quebec wants to be able to manage their own affairs, recognizing that they have a unique role in the history of Canada with the French language and the Quebec culture. So we've got a series of policies that is resonating with Quebecers, and I'm very confident that we're going to win more seats there as well.
That's very good, Well, I think we have covered most of the important things. Would you like to say anything to our readers and viewers, listeners?
Absolutely. Well, I can assure you that the Conservative platform will all be centered on making life more affordable. We know that so many people in this country are working very, very hard, but they don't feel like they're making it to the end of the month, that they're not getting ahead. So our policies will be aimed at making life more affordable so you can keep more of your hard-earned money so that you can do the things that you want to do. You can live out your dreams and aspirations. So making life more affordable, helping you get ahead, is going to be a central part of our campaign.
Thank you, Mr. Scheer.
Thank you very much.
We have just listened to the Conservative Party leader, Andrew Scheer, and he has given us some of his insight into what could happen when he becomes the Prime Minister of Canada. Thank you, Mr. Scheer.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.